Howdy remarketing fans. In this section I created a presentation that's going to walk you through in a kind of more visual way what the process of remarketing looks like, actually showing a remarketing ad to one of your previous website visitors, using cookies, using pixels, getting a little bit deeper into understanding what that process looks like until the point where you actually serve an ad through one of the ad exchanges to one of your previous website visitors. Once again, if you're not interested in this technical sort of background, kind of the belly of the beast, what's happening in the back end, by all means go ahead and skip to the next section. But if you'd like to get a visual representation of what this looks like, to get a little bit of a better understanding, then I think you'll like what I have prepared for you. So let's jump into it right now. Should we add some background music? Yeah, we'll add some background music. Make it a little bit more interesting. So how does the remarketing process work? This presentation is going to help you understand how a retargeted ad actually appears on your previous website visitors' web pages. Here's Jack. It's Thursday afternoon and Jack is really burnt out from work. He decides to continue his online search for a therapist. He's been having trouble with his really annoying sister who lives way too close to him, and I'm not projecting, it's just an example. Meanwhile, let's backtrack a little bit. Earlier in the week on Tuesday, Jack visited the Talkspace website, www.talkspace.com, and he thought the concept of text-based therapy was pretty cool. That's what Talkspace does. You know, his problems with his sister aren't that severe, so text message therapy might have been the perfect thing for Jack. Here's where we get into the pixel or the tag. Talkspace added the Google remarketing tag to their website, which is just a snippet of code that drops a cookie into Jack's browser. The Google remarketing tag is not the only tag that will use a pixel to drop a cookie into Jack's browser. Any remarketing platform that you use, or any DSP, demand-side platform like we've spoken about before, will use a pixel to drop a cookie into Jack's browser. The cookie gives a unique identification number. It's a long string, but in our example, D1298. Cookies are very small files, essentially just a string of numbers and letters that allow technology platforms to learn about website visitors and their browsing behaviors. Once again, cookies don't identify any personal information. They don't know your name, they don't know your address. All they know is your browsing behavior and everything else that is identified through your unique user ID. The cookie gets stored on Jack's actual computer hard drive. Browsers don't have any storage space, so once the Google remarketing tag or any other tracking tag or pixel drops that cookie into Jack's browser, the browser stores that cookie on Jack's hard drive to be used as Jack continues to surf the web. So here we go, we're back at Jack, and now it's Thursday afternoon. So we have his previous history where he went and visited Talkspace's site, and Talkspace dropped that cookie into Jack's browser via the AdWords remarketing pixel. Now the publisher enters the picture. So Jack does a Google search for sibling rivalry help and lands on a blog, let's say parenting.com, which is the publisher, that talks about techniques for handling psychotic sisters, exactly what Jack needs. The publisher's content server. The publisher's server sends the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript content back to Jack's computer so he could see a fully assembled web page. But wait, the web page is not fully assembled yet. At this point in time, when the HTTP or HTTPS connection is still open with the publisher server, if there's supposed to be an ad on that page, a process of calling the ad or requesting an ad is going to occur. In the HTML that the publisher's server sends back to Jack, there is a line, or a little bit more than one line of code that tells the browser that there should be an ad in this spot or in these multiple spots, and where to go to get that ad, and they use a special URL to do that. Lots and lots of things happen in a fraction of a second before the ad is loaded on the page. For our purposes, we're going to talk about an example where the ad request is sent directly to an exchange, but that's not necessarily how it always happens. Remember, we spoke about premium exchanges, direct media buys. Many different ad spots might be reserved for certain sorts of buyers, and it wouldn't necessarily go to the exchange. In our example, this ad slot is eligible for RTB allocation, real-time bidding allocation, so this ad request then gets sent out to one of the many ad exchanges that the publisher is working with. At this point, the ad exchange is alerted. that ad tag, which is that little code from the publisher server which landed on Jack's browser, alerts the ad exchange that the page that Jack is trying to load needs to have an ad on it. This ad call tells the ad exchange that they have the opportunity to conduct an ad auction. The ad call also gives the exchange access to you, and this is the most important part, which means the ad exchange could read its cookies stored on your browser. And note how I said its cookies. Jack's browser might have tons of different sorts of cookies on it from all his different browsing activity, but the ad exchange could only read its cookies, and we'll get back to that in just a quick second. Because this ad exchange, in our example, Google DoubleClick, originally dropped the cookie on Jack's browser when he was browsing last Tuesday on Talkspace's website, the exchange knows that it's Jack who is now on the Parenting.com blog reading about sibling rivalry. Now, here's a little bit of a side point, and this could get a little bit tricky. If Talkspace.com originally dropped a cookie from a DSP, data management platform, that was not the Google DoubleClick platform, let's say it was the MediaMath DSP, or let's say it was AdRoll's DSP, then how would the ad exchange now that's handling this ad request know that it's Jack who's on Parenting.com? Exchanges are only allowed to access cookies that they themselves drop because of security protocol. The answer lies in a complex process called cookie matching or cookie syncing, which we won't get into now, but rest assured, as long as you're using a reputable remarketing platform or DSP like AdRoll, Google, MediaMath, that all have seats on the major exchanges, your remarketing ads will be eligible to run on any of those major exchanges. What you're seeing here is a very simplified view of the communication channels once that initial ad exchange receives the ad request. In truth, there are many different technological platforms, there are many different partnerships that are going on in the back end that ultimately play a role in serving that final ad on Jack's browser. But the main players are other ad exchanges, DSPs, ad networks, third-party audience networks, agency trading desks, and agencies' own proprietary bidding systems. So it's up for grabs. The ad exchange that initially receives that ad call may send out that ad request to hundreds of DSPs, demand-side platforms, ad networks, agencies, and other exchanges, many of which are communicating with each other like we just explained. Millions and tens of millions of potential advertisers are being considered in this split-second auction. It's a breathtaking amount of technology. Now what about Jack? Talkspace, remember them? They receive a bid request through their advertising platform, which in our case is Google AdWords. Talkspace created a remarketing audience for users who have been to their homepage within the past 7 days, let's say, and who are now browsing blogs that talk about emotional psychological trauma. Talkspace, or Talkspace's DSP, once again in our case is AdWords, sees that Jack, at this very moment in time, fits the targeting parameters in that specific remarketing audience we just described. They don't know Jack by name, of course, but they know about him through the cookie the ad exchange read when they received the ad request from Jack's browser via the content of Parenting.com's server. The pre-cached bid. Because Talkspace knows that a previous website visitor in the past week who is currently browsing a website that talks about sibling rivalry is likely to be a really good Talkspace client, they told AdWords to bid really aggressively for that audience segment. Let's just say $5 max CPC bid. But Talkspace may have given this information to AdWords months ago when they set up their campaigns in AdWords, which is why this is called a pre-cached bid. Out of all the eligible advertisers, literally millions, Talkspace has the winning bid and they win the auction. Now let's take a look at the way back. The DSP, the demand-side platform that handles the advertising for Talkspace, sends the instructions for retrieving the ads back to the publisher server, which then follows those instructions to retrieve the ad from Google's ad servers. So Jack's happy, sorta. Once the publisher's server retrieves the ad from Google's ad servers, the page will load with the winning Talkspace ad in the proper location. Jack is happy because he has a functioning web page, but not so happy because he still has unresolved issues with his sister. Now, whether or not Jack clicks on the ad, Talkspace will be tracking his activity, or lack thereof, through the same cookieing process we described before. This process could look drastically different under other sorts of circumstances where different ad exchanges are involved, different types of real-time bidding technologies are involved, but I wanted to give you a basic nuts and bolts overview of pixels, cookies, how that gets brokered through a real-time bidding ad exchange, so you could have a fundamental understanding of how a potential customer would come to your website and then you'd be able to serve them a remarketing ad as they continue to browse the web. So I hope you're now armed with a strong fundamental knowledge of the evolution of the advertising ecosystem, understanding real-time bidding, the basic understanding of the ad exchange, and now you're able to dive into theory, technique, actual practical knowledge to set up really profitable, really powerful remarketing campaigns for your business or your company or whatever it is you want to advertise. Looking forward to seeing you guys in the next section.